Live the African Dream podcast. Today we have Joseph Kinvi, the community manager at Hoaq. Hoaq is a community of creators and operators backing startup founders in Africa and its diaspora. He's also the financial partnerships at Paystack. Hi, Joe. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Eunice.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I am pretty sure you can give a better explanation about your background and your experience than I can. I would love to just have an amazing story of where you're from, how you got started, and what was the involvement with Hope and the inspiration behind it.
Sure. So I'm from Togo originally, born and raised, but I moved to Ireland a long time ago to finish my studies, and I graduated, then went on to train as an accountant, and about 6-7 years ago, I decided to go into the fintech space, and right after that, I spent about 2 years in with the company I was with, and got fortunate that our company got acquired by Stripe, and I ended up working for Stripe. I'm still there now, although I'm spending more time at Paystack, which is the subsidiary of Stripe in Africa. And so that's what I do. But on the outside of my day job, I spend time investing with Hoaq, with my partner Newbie, who, although I've known him for a while, the idea actually started when we were at Stripe together. And the aim is to back African founders in Europe or in Africa, and at least build a community to be that friend and family for them as they're starting up on their startup journey. As I mentioned earlier, Hoaq was actually supposed to be a community of investors to come together and build like I'm going to call brick and mortar businesses in Dublin, but realize that the problem isn't like a local, it's more of a global issue, but concerning the same group of people. But as time went on, Hoaq has evolved to back founders who are building in Africa or for Africa. So that's how we started. If I'm making sense.
No, I mean, that's super interesting. I did not know that story that you guys actually wanted to help business owners that were looking to potentially build African restaurants. I mean, from African restaurants to tech companies. What was that switch? Like, what did that look like? Was it just like, hey, like there's a bigger problem here, and I don't think this restaurant is a solution. Like, what was the story? How did you guys decide from, hey, I mean, like, let's start backing these founders to growing a community of at least over 1,000 members right now?
Yeah, so the first piece is, yes, the problem is there, but we decided to go into tech because that's our background, right? So Newbie and I both work in tech. Newbie was a founder in Nigeria before moving to Ireland to do his MBA. And again, we're both working for a fintech startup. So like we understand that space definitely better than restaurants, because what do we know about restaurants? And our network, direct and extended network, tend to be within the tech space. So that's how we went there. We've spoken to a lot of founders throughout Europe and also Africa, and it turned out that folks, or at least founders on the continent, like have it a lot harder than folks elsewhere. And with Newbie's a network, because he was a founder, he knows a lot of founders in the ecosystem. That really enabled us to get started a lot quicker. It's also worth mentioning that the Hoaq community started from a community Newbie and I had, we've built over the years. It's a network called APNI, African Professional Network of Ireland. So we both led the organization, and as we're starting, it was easier to tap into that network and see how folks within that network would be interested in coming and joining us to back African founders in Africa, also the diaspora.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think the word just spread because it was obviously something that was needed. My introduction to angel investing in Africa was obviously through Hook. Many people don't know this, but that was my humble beginnings. And I'm super, super grateful to Joe and Nubi for just creating such an amazing community that is very collaborative, very engaging, and I've referred so many of my angel investors to the community because it is the place. If you just, like you guys have made it super easy. There are not a lot of accreditation requirements like most US angel communities. The fees are very reasonable. The minimum commitments are super affordable. I mean, I could tell a lot of things about Hope, but if anybody was interested, right, in saying, "Hey, I would love to be part of the African ecosystem," how would you advise them to get started for all the potential angel investors out there that are interested in Africa?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the easiest part is just to go to our website. First of all, thank you for the kind words. It means a lot. Uh, so we have like a very basic website, which is hope.club. And if you want to get started, the easier thing to do is just to kind of watch what other people are doing. And that's the first thing. The second thing is, do by learning, right? So the reason why we have very low minimum check size is, if you want to try angel investing, it actually doesn't make sense for you to start writing 10, 25, or 100K checks if you have the money, right? Ideally, you want to build that muscle of kind of writing small checks. We have people who started with like the $1,000 checks and then go on to become angel investors in their own right. And you're one of those people where instead of you, even if you have the money, like it's not prudent to start writing those big checks, but you want to try do a couple of deals, like learn how to build your investment thesis, your personal investment thesis, and then go find networks or clubs or whatever it is that aligns with your thesis, right? Then you can join them, and then you can start doing investments there. I think that's the most prudent way to go about it. And we started Hook because we wanted to become angel investors. And the reason why it resonated with so many people across the community is because they're like a lot of people within the network are very similar to us, right? And they were looking for some avenue. We managed to create it for ourselves and the community. And again, we focused on what really mattered, right? So you want to invest cash. You don't want to be paying 5-10% to whichever platform. And again, you don't want to write large checks. So that's the whole idea. Our fees are reasonable. And the reason why we actually didn't have fees for a long time. But as the community grew, there is a lot of compliance requirements, and you have to pay your lawyers and you pay other people, and hence we introduced the fees. And the whole idea of the fees is to cover these expenses, really.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, that's and it seems easy, to say, oh yeah, like just start angel investing and then you can go and build your own community, and then you do great. But the reality is building an angel community, especially growing it at such a huge number, obviously come with its own challenges. What are some of the big? I mean, and I know that for myself, when I decided that I wanted to launch Azim Capital, I thought, well, I will launch a fund, right? But I'll also launch an angel community. And I remember maybe like a month into it, I was like, there's no way I can do both. It is a lot, very time consuming. You have to keep engaging your community. You have to be able to do a lot of things to make sure that you keep, that community excited to keep coming back. So please just give us a little bit of a background on how you guys have been able to, just build Hope to be such, a great community of, thousands and thousands or hundreds of investors. And if anybody out there, right, any other African or African enthusiast is interested in building their own, what will be, I don't know, like your either your step by step or like your like your advice on how to approach the whole community.
Um, yeah, great question. The first step would be find your tribe. Find people who are interested in the same things that you're interested in. And that's what we did, right? In the first few months, we just reached out to hundreds of people and see if people were interested in what we're doing. And by doing that, we actually had to put our own capital first so that, like, we're in this and we just want people to tag along with us. So find a tribe. The second thing is build trust. It took us a while for people to actually trust what we're doing because, like, you don't want to wire, like 1,000, even if it's $500, right? You don't want to wire that to somebody you've never met or you don't know personally. It was easy for people who knew us, but like I think the turning point was when I remember one community member wired $5,000 for a deal, and I reached out to Newbie, like what's happening with this person? Like, why are you doing this? You've never met us, right? And at this stage, the community was very closed. It was only people that we knew, and yeah, so we managed to build trust very quickly, and that really accelerated the growth. When people started trusting what we do, they found it easier to recommend it to other people. So, like, build trust. And the third thing is, don't forget why people come to you. People come to Hoaq because they want to be able to invest. And for them to invest, you need to give them deal flow. I'm sure you've seen we have deal flow for days. And when we speak to like LPs as we're raising our fund, the question that keeps coming up is like, where do you get a deal flow? So we get our deal flow through three sources, right? The first one is our network of founders that we've worked with. Like, you'll be surprised how many founders recommend other founders to the community. The second one is just our email. Like, people just send us decks. I'm sure every investor out there gets the same. And the third one, which is actually so important, is the Hoaq community. Like, we get decks from so many, like, we've gotten into so many deals that we couldn't have gotten into if it wasn't because of the Hoaq members. So essentially, like, the reason why people send us decks is when you find a company you want to invest in and you don't, probably don't have a lot of money or you don't meet the minimum check, you bring it to Hoaq. And if there are more people who want to invest along, so we just make it happen, right? So the source of deal flow is the community, which we don't take for granted because, yeah, the start, it was us, talking to people, talking to our network, people who've done this before, other VCs. But as the community grew, the community is our biggest source of deal flow. So to summarize, what was the first thing I said again?
No, you said I think it was like find your thesis or like find your
Find your
community,
tribe,
right?
find your
Yeah.
tribe, build trust, and then like give people why they come to you, which is in our case, the deal flow.
Yeah.
I think one thing you talked about is the challenges. Like you saw, the admin piece is very time consuming, and we're so lucky to have two team members, along myself and Newbie, who help us with the back office that nobody sees. And on top of that, we also have a bunch of venture partners who help us just go through the deals because, yeah, you need to like do the work regardless of whether you're writing a 5K check or I think the 100K check. So yeah, super lucky to have a group of venture partners that help us throughout this process.
Yeah, I mean, I could so relate to like what you said, which I always tell my small team that our LPs, our customers, right? But our deal flow and our founders, our product, right? So we have to keep finding them. We have to keep improving, like, we have to keep nurturing them and making sure that, like they look appealing to our customers, right? So our customers can continue buying. That is such an important point. But I think like I want to switch gears a little bit. I mean, I think we've all heard of the VC slowdown, the recession in the US coming up, right? And just um, all the crazy things that are happening in the world right now around the investment world. I'm actually curious, how is your team alongside your community of angels thinking about the situation and also like navigating the current market?
Um, so one fact is the slowdown has also impacted us. So when we compare our, Q1 numbers to the Q2 numbers, the amount of commitment and investment have decreased quite significantly. So that is that. Um, the other thing that we've seen is, people are more cautious and people are taking a slightly longer to commit to deals. There's more due diligence happening, which is a good thing, because again, we on top of the due diligence that we do, we always recommend our community to also do their own due diligence, because you need to make sure that like you're backing a company that again is in line with your personal thesis. Um, yeah, like my personal take on the slowdown is it's long overdue. For folks like myself and yourself, it's just happening a bit too quick in our
Yeah.
journey as investors, right? But I'm glad that it's happening now, not 5 or 10 years into this, so that we can learn from it and have a very balanced view as we continue to invest and back founders. Um, in terms of valuations, we've seen valuation come down. I remember when we started in 2020, we were able to invest in a lot of companies at $1 million valuation. Like last year, it was impossible to find anything that's 1 million. Right? Everybody was starting from 5, 10 million.
Yeah.
But now things are resetting again, right? And I think it's more of a reset than anything. And I actually really, really hope that stays like this, where valuations are based off of something and not vibes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for us, I like to believe that we've been very diligent in terms of looking at companies and looking at the facts and the fundamentals, instead of just investing because this other person is investing. And yeah, like we've, I'm sure we've invested at slightly higher valuations, but again, the market always adjusts and corrects itself. And I believe that I don't know how long we're going to be at this bottom for. But again, the great companies will keep fundraising. Like, let's not even get this thing twisted. Like, the best companies will raise the money, and they'll keep, as long as they're serving their customers, right? They have product market fit. They'll be fine. It's only the not so great ones that will not make it. They will struggle to raise, follow-on capital because they don't meet the metrics. It's okay at pre-seed or seed stage, but when you start going to Series A, Series B, you just have to show the numbers. Like, there's no other ways around it. The numbers have to make sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, like great companies will keep raising money and they'll keep growing. And the other thing I wanted to say is you're going to see a lot of consolidation on the market. Many companies are going to be either bought out, they're probably dying and they need to sell their technology. There's going to be a lot of aqua hires. And we're actually seeing some of that in the ecosystem. So again, like it's natural. The thing is the VC investment space, it just kept going up and up and up, and it's only a matter of time that it's going to come down, and we're on that downward spiral. But yeah, that's my personal views on it, and I'm actually really looking forward to the M&As and the acquisitions and the aqua hires. My goal is, maybe like in 5 to 7 years from now, I wanted to move into the M&A space because I've engaged with a lot of companies and they're going to either need to sell or something needs to happen, right? So I'm a bit bummed out that this down market is happening now because I still don't have a lot of M&A experience. So I can't do anything in that space.
No, I get it, and I can completely relate to what you're saying. I think you mentioned it, so I'm just gonna press a little bit on it. What What are your thoughts on the fact that we have seen a lot more fundraising going into African startups, but the reality is there are still not that many IPOs. There's still not that many M&As that side of the market is still very early.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts, for just, I mean, at the end of the day, as every investor, we're investing to get a return on our investment in the future. What are your thoughts on just the African ecosystem and the way things are going in terms of potential IPOs or potential merger and acquisitions?
It's very early days for Africa when it comes to venture investing. Like when you look at the entire A16Z funds, it's much bigger than maybe the cumulative funding that's gone to Africa. That's just one American fund, right?
Hmm.
And the US ecosystem has been around for 30, 40 years. We're 5 years in. So,
Yep.
like, it's going to take a lot of time to go through it. A lot of funds, like, their fund cycle is 10 years. Like, Sequoia has probably gone through like 3 or 4 cycles. I don't think
Yep.
there's many African funds that have gone through one cycle, one full 10-year cycle. It just shows how early it's too early for us. And also, like, our economies are still at the bottom, right? Like, they're just picking up, right? Like, the infrastructure are being built, the businesses are just coming. So, I'm currently in Nairobi, and this year, well, for the past 2, 3 weeks, I've been to Kigali, Kampala, and now I'm in Nairobi. Then I'm going to Accra. Then I'm going to Lome. Um, and when you go to these cities, it's so early. Like,
Yeah.
for example, in Nairobi, like you cannot turn without seeing a building being built. Like there's a lot of real estate happening, being built in Nairobi, and
Wow.
I strongly recommend people to visit. Same thing in Kenya, no, same thing in Ghana. I haven't been to Abidjan. I really want to go to Abidjan, but like the infrastructure of a lot of African cities have been built. You can't
Yep.
scale without a very solid foundation. So, like, that's just infra. Then we need to talk about economic stability. Then we need to talk about political stability. Once you achieve, well, political before economic, right? Once you have these foundations, then you're going to see like the continuous growth where, a lot of people would not need to emigrate anymore. They will stay on the continent. You'll see a lot of like immigration. I think it's going to happen. But yeah, like to answer your question, the foundation is still being built in Africa. And I strongly recommend a lot of anybody who wants to invest in Africa needs to come and see. I always say that like you cannot be investing in Africa without either having a base there or having people on the ground, right?
Yeah.
And for Newbie and I in the Hoaq community, like it somehow played a part in our career moves. Like we both work full time on the continent, and it's really important for us to be around. And so I'm spending the whole summer in Africa, and like I was in Kampala last week, and we did a dinner with like 20 founders. Like shout out to Peter from Future Africa. Like 20 founders, and you'll be surprised what people are building in Uganda. You'll be surprised what people are building in Nairobi. I'm doing something else in Nairobi this month. So, like, it's early days, but anybody just take a trip and come and check it out. Even if it's a holiday, come pick like what we call them like the top cities. Just pick one
Hmm.
and go visit and see what's happening. Talk to the investors or talk to the founders in the ecosystem. But I think the opportunities are endless. You just need to, understand a bit of the markets and, and start deploying slowly. Like I know a lot of bigger funds who want to start investing in Africa, but they just don't know where to start, right? Send some of your principals, send some of your associates, allow them to take a holiday and go check out what's happening in Nairobi, or send them to Johannesburg, or, send them to Lagos and go check it out for yourself. But it's a great time for Africa. I'm so excited.
No, that is so beautifully made. I mean, I love every single thing you've said, and you've mentioned a lot about just, like your investment and Hope. And I think, I want you to just share, like what are your hopes? Like we know what you guys have accomplished so far. What are your hopes for Hope as well as the whole community, over the next couple of years?
I'll start with the whole community. We actually
Mm-hmm.
want to see as many uh, angel investors as possible, start from Hoaq and just go, right? What that means is it means more capital for the companies, more friends and family around, and then the big VCs can come in. Like you can't, like you need to start from somewhere. So the hope is we want to be able to, I want to use the term churn out as many angel investors as possible, right? And yeah, that's the hope. The second hope is for us as the managers of this community is to invest more. So we are currently raising a fund, as you know, and the purpose of the fund is to invest earlier into companies that we believe this founder is amazing and they're building something great. Without any traction, we want to be able to deploy capital super early. We've missed out on so many opportunities purely because that doesn't align with the whole club thesis. And then we want to go on to co-invest with the community. And lastly, we've done about 70 deals. No, we've invested in over 70 companies. These companies will go on to raise more capital, and we want to use the fund to follow on until they reach their heights. We believe that a large portion of our portfolio will go on to raise more capital, and we want to be ready to back them as they continue to scale. A good few of them have raised Series A, which is great. We've seen actually 3 or 4 this quarter alone who are raising Series A, and I think it's a testament of the the belief that the community have in us to bring this to back these companies. Remember, we don't invest our own capital, but like we bring the companies to the community, and the community backs it. So we want to keep investing and always bring the community along with us as we continue to deploy more capital.
Okay, awesome. That was amazing. So I'm gonna go with a very simple last question to end this podcast. And I know you saw the question, which is what was the last book you read, and what was the most interesting thing about it?
I read The Psychology of Money recently,
Mhm.
and as much as I would like to believe that I understand money purely because of my accounting background, but I learned a lot of things that I kind of believed in them, but I think the book reaffirmed the things I believed in. So I highly recommend it. Psychology of Money. It's a great book. You don't have to be a finance or accounting head to get it. It's very practical, and you can start putting like the learnings into practice straight away. Can I plug another book?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm currently reading Bad Blood about the Theranos story, and yeah, it's you have it.
I have it.
Yeah.
I have it somewhere. Oh, right there, my blood. You
Yes.
can see
Um,
it
I'm not
over
finished,
there.
but it's yeah, it's intense, and it's a great thriller, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
I recommend it.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. It was so great having you. And you guys can find Joe on LinkedIn, on Twitter, as well as if you're interested in joining the Hope Club. I think it's just hope.club, right?
That's right. Yes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast today. This was Live the African Dream podcast, and I will see you guys next time.